When Child Protective Services showed up at my door for the third time in 2 months, with a clipboard in one hand and a police escort in the other, my son was finger painting in his pajamas, and our golden retriever Bowie was licking applesauce off the floor. It would have been funny, unless I was living my worst nightmare again. Tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from, and have you ever tangled with an HOA? Because this next part will make your blood boil. Let's get into it. My name is Rachel, and I'm a 44-year-old single mom living in what I thought was paradise, a gated community called Desert Springs in Phoenix, Arizona. You know the type, manicured lawns that cost more to maintain than most people's mortgages. 3 community pools, a golf course nobody under 60 uses, and an HOA board that acted like they were running the Pentagon, not a suburban neighborhood. My son Ethan is 8 years old, autistic, and the absolute light of my life. He speaks in movie quotes, organizes his toys by the exact shade of blue, and when he smiles, which isn't often enough these days, it's like watching the sun break through storm clouds. Bowie, our 3-year-old golden retriever, has been Ethan's shadow since we brought him home as a puppy. That dog has this sixth sense about meltdowns. He'll lay his head on Ethan's lap right before one hits, giving me precious seconds to prepare. I used to be a speech therapist, had my own practice actually. But when Ethan regressed at 3, losing most of his words overnight, I closed up shop. Some battles you fight with everything you've got, and this was mine. The trouble started 6 months ago when we moved in. The previous owners hadn't disclosed that the HOA president, Karen Whitmore, lived 3 houses down. Yes, her name was actually Karen. The universe has a twisted sense of humor sometimes. The first complaint came within a week. Ethan had been having a rough morning, stimming on the front porch, flapping his hands while watching the ceiling fan spin. Completely harmless. But apparently it was disturbing to potential buyers touring the house across the street. The complaint letter arrived the next day, citing violation 3.2.5 residents must maintain property aesthetics and curb appeal at all times. I laughed it off. Then came complaint number 2, Ethan's therapy trampoline in the backyard was visible from the street and needed to be removed. Then his weighted swing set was not approved by the architectural committee. Then Bowie's barking during Ethan's meltdowns was excessive noise. Each complaint felt like a paper cut, small, stinging, but manageable. I documented everything, responded professionally, even invited Karen over for coffee to explain Ethan's needs. She declined. But here's where things got dark. After I filed an ADA complaint with the HOA's management company about disability discrimination, the stakes changed overnight. The first CPS call came 2 days later. "Ma'am, we received a report of a child in danger," the social worker had said, standing at my door with that practice-neutral expression they must teach in training. Allegations include neglect, unsanitary living conditions, and failure to provide adequate supervision. My knees went weak. Anyone who's been through this knows that feeling. It's like someone reached into your chest and squeezed your heart with an ice-cold fist. Ethan was right there, clean, fed, working on his iPad educational apps with Bowie curled at his feet. The social worker, a kind woman named Maria, did her inspection. She noted the therapy equipment, the visual schedules on every wall, the locked cabinets, the special diet foods labeled and organized. She watched me redirect Ethan when he started to get overwhelmed by the stranger in our space. She saw the binder. Oh yes, I had a binder. Medical records, therapy notes, IEP documents, daily care logs going back 2 years. "Mrs. Morrison," Maria said quietly as she left, "your home is one of the most organized, child-focused environments I've ever seen." This call, it was unfounded. But 2 weeks later they were back. Different allegation, this time educational neglect. Then again 3 weeks after that, medical neglect. Each time I had to let strangers into my home, watch them scrutinize my parenting, my life, my sweet boy who didn't understand why these people kept coming to our house. Each visit sent Ethan spiraling for days. He stopped sleeping, started pulling his hair. Bowie practically glued himself to Ethan's side, whimpering when the doorbell rang. But during that 3rd visit, something different happened. Maria was back, and this time she wasn't alone. She'd brought her supervisor, a stern-looking man named Robert, who clearly wasn't pleased about being there. "Mrs. Morrison," Robert said, reviewing the file, 3 calls in 2 months, all unfounded, all from the same zip code. "This is starting to look like harassment." My hands shook as I poured them coffee. I think I know who's doing this. Maria and Robert exchanged glances. We can't reveal the caller's identity. Maria started, but Robert held up his hand. But we can tell you that if you suspect someone is weaponizing CPS for personal reasons, you should document everything and consider legal action. These false reports aren't just wasting our resources, they're traumatizing your family. After they left, I sat on my kitchen floor and cried while Bowie licked my face and Ethan lined up his dinosaurs in perfect color gradient beside me, occasionally patting my head the way I pat his. That night, I made a decision. If someone was coming for my son, I was going to find out who, and I was going to end them. Not physically, of course, but I would destroy them in every legal way possible. What I didn't know yet was that the evidence I needed was about to fall into my lap in the most unexpected way. 3 days after that third CPS visit, Phoenix hit 115 degrees. Even for Arizona, it was brutal. Ethan couldn't go outside, which meant his energy had nowhere to go. By noon, he was in full meltdown mode and nothing was working. Not his weighted blanket, not his noise-canceling headphones, not even Bowie's gentle pressure against his legs. In desperation, I did something I'd never done before. I let him run through the sprinklers in our front yard in just his swim trunks. For exactly 3 minutes, he was happy, laughing, regulated. Then I saw her, Karen Whitmore, standing on her porch with her phone out, recording. "Ethan, time to go inside," I called, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. But Ethan wasn't ready. He dropped to the grass, started rolling, his happy sounds turning to frustrated shrieks. "This is autism. This is our reality. You can't always reason with sensory needs." I ran to him, Bowie right beside me, and that's when it happened. In my rush, I didn't see the decorative rock border. I tripped, went down hard, my knee hitting the concrete pathway. Blood immediately started seeping through my jeans. Ethan, seeing the blood, went into complete panic mode. His shrieks hit a pitch that had neighbors coming out of their houses. Bowie did something extraordinary then. He physically herded Ethan toward the house, using his body to guide my son away from my injury, away from the gathering crowd, away from Karen's still recording phone. As I limped inside, leaving blood droplets on my pristine driveway, I heard Karen on her phone. "Yes, I need to report an incident. A child was just injured due to parental negligence. She'd seen me fall, she'd watched me bleed, and she was reporting that Ethan was the one hurt." 40 minutes later, police knocked on my door. Not CPS this time, actual police. The young officer looked embarrassed. "Ma'am, we had a report of an injured child." I showed him my bandaged knee, the bloody jeans in my laundry room, the Ring doorbell footage that showed everything. Ethan, calm now, was doing his math worksheets with Bowie's head in his lap. The officer watched the footage twice. "Ma'am, who called this in? I suspect my HOA president, but I can't prove it." He made notes, gave me a case number, and then said something that changed everything. "You might want to get a lawyer. This looks like a pattern of false reporting. That's a crime." That night, after Ethan was asleep, I sat at my computer and started researching HOA laws, Arizona harassment statutes, A-Day protections, and then, on a whim, I searched for Desert Springs HOA board minutes. They were supposed to be public record. What I found made my blood run cold. The minutes from the May meeting, 1 week after I'd filed my ADA complaint. Discussion regarding problem residents and property value impact. KW suggests proactive measures to address situations before they escalate. Board approves discretionary fund for legal consultations regarding difficult residents. June meeting, KW reports progress on Morrison situation. Anticipates resolution within 60 days. July meeting, external agencies have been engaged regarding safety concerns. Board supports KW's continued efforts. They were discussing me, my son, in official board meetings, like we were a problem to be solved. I screenshot everything, my hands shaking with fury. But I needed more. These minutes were damning, but they weren't proof of the CPS calls. That's when my doorbell rang at 10 p.m. Bowie went ballistic, which he never did. Full protection mode, standing between me and the door, growling. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I recognized but didn't know well. Jennifer something from 2 streets over. Former HOA board member. "Rachel, I'm sorry to bother you so late. Can we talk? It's about Karen." Every instinct screamed trap, but something in her expression looked guilty. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Bowie stayed pressed against my leg, still growling softly. Jennifer was holding a manila folder, and her hands were trembling. I was on the board until 3 months ago. I resigned because of what they were planning to do to you. My heart stopped. What? The CPS calls, it was discussed in executive session. Off the record. Karen said she had a contact at CPS who told her 3 substantiated calls would trigger an automatic removal investigation. She said it was for the good of the neighborhood. And you said nothing? Tears ran down Jennifer's face. I have a son with ADHD. Karen started making comments about him after I pushed back. I was scared. But then I saw the police here today. And I can't let her do this. She handed me the folder. Inside were printed emails. Not official HOA emails. Personal ones between Karen and other board members. The subject lines alone made me nauseous. Morrison update. Next steps, CPS strategy. One email dated the day before the first CPS call made everything crystal clear. Karen had written, "I'll make the first call tomorrow. Remember, we need different concerns each time. Neglect first, then education, then medical. Space them out to avoid suspicion." I had to sit down on my porch step. Jennifer sat beside me, both of us crying now, while Bowie finally stopped growling and rested his head on my knee. "Will you testify to this?" I asked. "Yes. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I'm so sorry." After she left, I called the only lawyer I knew, my divorce attorney from 3 years ago. He didn't handle this kind of law, but he knew someone who did. "Rachel, send me everything tonight." "Everything? This is big, bigger than you realize." But before I could even process what was happening, my phone rang. It was Maria, the CPS social worker, calling from her personal cell. "Mrs. Morrison, I shouldn't be calling you, but I need you to know something. My supervisor did some digging after our visit. The calls about you, they all came from the same number. And that number, it belongs to someone named Karen Whitmore. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but what? We're opening an investigation. Not into you, into her. Filing false CPS reports is a felony in Arizona. My supervisor is furious. We've had to divert resources from actual at-risk children because of these false calls." I couldn't speak. The justice I'd been praying for was happening, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like standing in the rubble after an earthquake, surveying the damage. That night, Ethan had another meltdown. A bad one. He'd absorbed all my stress, all the chaos, even though I'd tried so hard to shield him. As I held him while he sobbed, Bowie pressed against both of us, and I made a promise. Karen Whitmore had no idea what she'd started, but I was going to finish it. The next morning arrived with a dust storm warning and my lawyer David Chen at my door at 7 a.m. sharp. He wasn't what I expected. Young, maybe early 30s, with the kind of quiet intensity that suggested he ate corporate bullies for breakfast. "Mrs. Morrison, what we have here is a perfect storm of criminal activity," he said, spreading the evidence across my dining room table while Ethan ate his carefully arranged breakfast foods in color order. "False CPS reports, conspiracy, harassment, ADA violations, and potentially hate crimes given the targeted discrimination against your son's disability." Hate crimes. My coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. Arizona expanded its definition 2 years ago. Targeting someone for harassment based on their disability or their family member's disability qualifies. Karen Whitmore isn't just facing civil penalties. She's looking at potential jail time. Bowie, sensing the shift in energy, positioned himself between Ethan and the serious conversation, creating a golden furry barrier of protection. David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled, the first one I'd seen from him. "That's the county attorney's office. They want to meet today." By noon, I was sitting in a conference room downtown, surrounded by people in suits who were taking me very seriously. The lead prosecutor, a woman named Patricia Reeves who looked like she could stare down the devil himself, reviewed everything with surgical precision. "Mrs. Morrison, we're prepared to file criminal charges against Miss Whitmore and potentially other board members. But we need your cooperation. This could get ugly." "It's already ugly," I said. "My son is traumatized. He's afraid of anyone coming to our door. He's regressed in his therapy progress by 6 months." Patricia nodded. "We're also involving the Attorney General's Civil Rights Division. What happened to you and Ethan is exactly why these laws exist." As we talked strategy, my phone kept buzzing. Text after text from neighbors. Apparently, Karen had called an emergency HOA meeting for that evening. The agenda, discussing the Morrison situation and necessary community actions. David saw my face. Oh, she has no idea what's coming, does she? Should I go to the meeting? I asked. Patricia and David exchanged glances. Actually, Patricia said slowly, that would be perfect. Let her dig her own grave a little deeper. That evening, I walked into the community center with Jennifer beside me for moral support. Bowie stayed home with Ethan and my emergency babysitter. The room was packed. Apparently, drama travels fast in gated communities. Karen stood at the podium, her perfectly styled blonde hair and pastel blazer making her look like a Fox News anchor about to deliver propaganda. She didn't see me at first, too busy shuffling her papers. Thank you all for coming on short notice, she began. As you know, we've had some challenges with certain residents who refuse to comply with community standards. You mean the autistic kid? Someone called out. Karen's smile was poisonous. We don't discriminate based on medical conditions. However, when a child's behaviors threaten property values and community safety, that's a lie. Everyone turned. I stood up, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Karen's face went white, then red. Mrs. Morrison, this is a closed session for members in good standing. I'm a member, I've paid my dues, and I have something everyone needs to hear. Sit down or I'll have you removed. Go ahead, call the police. I'm sure they'd love to hear about this meeting, especially since you're currently under criminal investigation for filing false CPS reports. The room erupted. HOA board members started whispering frantically. Neighbors turned to stare at Karen, whose face had gone from red to purple. That's slander, she shrieked. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the Bluetooth speaker I'd spotted earlier, and played the recording. Not of her, but of the county attorney's office authorizing me to share the following information. Karen Whitmore is under investigation for multiple felony counts of filing false reports to Child Protective Services. The room went dead silent. Then Jennifer stood up. I resign from any association with this board. I have evidence of conspiracy to harass the Morrison family, and I've already turned it over to the authorities. Another former board member stood. I also have emails. Karen pressured us to participate. She said if we didn't support her, she'd target our families next. The dam broke. Neighbor after neighbor started sharing stories. Karen's harassment wasn't limited to us. The Indian family who was told their Diwali decorations were inappropriate. The veteran with PTSD, whose service dog was almost banned. The elderly couple cited for their grandson's wheelchair ramp. Karen grabbed the microphone. You're all going to regret this. I know people, important people. I'll sue every one of you. That's when the door opened. Patricia Reeves walked in with 2 police officers. Karen Whitmore, you're under arrest for filing false reports, conspiracy to commit harassment, and violation of civil rights. You have the right to remain silent. As they cuffed her, Karen looked directly at me. The hatred in her eyes was pure, undiluted evil. Your retard son doesn't belong here, she hissed. The entire room gasped. One of the officers added, "Ma'am, we're adding hate speech to the charges." After they led her away, the room stayed frozen for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Slowly, others joined in. Not for the spectacle, but for the end of a reign of terror. None of them had been brave enough to stop. But my victory felt hollow. Ethan was still home, scared and confused. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. That night, as I tucked Ethan into bed with Bowie curled at his feet, he looked at me with those serious brown eyes and said, in perfect clarity, "Bad lady gone. Yes, baby, bad lady gone." He smiled then, the first real smile in weeks, and quoted his favorite movie. "The sun will come out tomorrow." If only it were that simple. The next 3 weeks were a blur of legal procedures, but also something unexpected. Scandal after scandal within the HOA. Karen's arrest had opened a Pandora's box. The FBI got involved when financial irregularities surfaced. Apparently those legal consultation funds. They'd been funding Karen's personal vendetta against multiple families, not just mine. But the real shock came when my doorbell rang on a Tuesday morning. Ethan was in therapy, Bowie was napping, and I was finally catching up on work emails. Through the peephole, I saw someone I never expected, Karen's husband Michael. He looked destroyed. Suit wrinkled, eyes red, holding an envelope. Against every instinct, I opened the door but stood firmly in the doorway. Michael, Rachel, I need you to know I didn't know. Not until the arrest. I swear I didn't know. What do you want? He handed me the envelope. This is from my personal attorney. It's evidence. Karen, she kept recordings. Of everything. She was building a case against you, but she recorded herself admitting to the false reports. She recorded the board meetings where they planned it. It's all here. My attorney says, you need this for your civil case. I took the envelope, suspicious.
Yeah.
Why would you give this to me? His voice cracked. Because I have a nephew with autism, because what she did was evil. And because, he paused, looking broken. I found out she's been doing this for years, to dozens of families. You're just the first one who fought back. After he left, I called David immediately. The USB drive in the envelope contained hours of recordings. Karen's voice, clear as day, laughing about running out the undesirables, planning false code violations, discussing how to legally harass families into leaving. One recording made me physically sick. Karen talking to someone on the phone. The autistic kid is perfect. Nobody questions when you're concerned about a special needs child. Everyone assumes the parents are overwhelmed or neglectful. David's voice was grim. This changes everything. This is RICO territory. Racketeering. She turned the HOA into a criminal enterprise. But the universe wasn't done with its plot twists. 3 days later, Ethan and I were at the park with Bowie when a car came speeding through the parking lot. It jumped the curb, heading straight for the playground. Parents screamed, grabbed children, and scattered. But one little girl, maybe 4 years old, froze in terror. I didn't think. I ran, scooped her up, and dove behind the playground structure. The car crashed into the swing set where she'd been standing. Bowie had grabbed Ethan's shirt, pulling him to safety behind a bench. The driver stumbled out, clearly intoxicated. Other parents tackled him, holding him for police. The little girl in my arms was sobbing but uninjured. Her mother ran over, hysterical with relief. You saved her. Oh my God, you saved my baby. I looked up at the mother's face and nearly dropped in shock. It was Karen's daughter, Ashley, the one who'd stood by her mother at every meeting, nodding along with every discriminatory policy. Ashley fell to her knees, clutching her daughter, then looked at me with tears streaming. After everything my mother did to you, you saved my child. I didn't know she was yours. I said honestly, I just saw a child in danger. The police arrived, news crews shortly after. The story went viral within hours. Mother of autistic child saves HOA president's granddaughter despite harassment campaign. That evening, Ashley came to my door with her daughter, Emma. Ethan was building with blocks, while Bowie supervised. Emma immediately joined him, and to my amazement, Ethan didn't mind. He even shared his favorite blue blocks. Rachel, Ashley began, I owe you an apology that words can't cover. I knew what my mother was doing was wrong, but I was too weak to stop her. I was afraid she'd turn on me, on Emma. Fear makes us do terrible things, I said watching our children play. I want to testify against her. I have evidence too. She made me help her sometimes. I kept copies of everything because I knew someday someone would stop her. The trial began 2 months later. Karen faced 47 criminal charges. The HOA was dissolved by court order, its assets distributed to reimburse families who'd been harassed over the years. 14 families, it turned out. 14 families she'd driven from their homes. Karen took a plea deal, 3 years in prison, 5 years probation, and a lifetime ban from serving on any HOA board. She had to pay restitution to all the families, which bankrupted her. Michael divorced her and moved out of state with Ashley and Emma. During the sentencing, the judge asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I stood Ethan beside me because he insisted on coming. Bowie between us. Your Honor, my son is autistic. That's not a tragedy. It's not something to be fixed or hidden or driven away. He experiences the world differently, beautifully, intensely. What Miss Whitmore did wasn't just attack my family. She attacked the very idea that different people deserve to exist in public spaces. She weaponized systems meant to protect children to terrorize a child. The damage she caused can't be undone with prison time or money. My son is afraid of doorbell sounds. He panics when he sees official-looking cars. He asks me if the bad lady will come back. So while I appreciate the court's justice, I want Miss Whitmore to know that her legacy isn't the powerful HOA president she thought she was. Her legacy is being the villain in my son's story. The bad lady who taught him that some people will hate you for being different. But also, the bad lady who taught him that we fight back. We stand up, we protect each other, and we win. Ethan, in a moment of perfect timing, looked directly at Karen and said, "Clear as day, you're not invited to my birthday party." The courtroom erupted in surprised laughter. Even the judge smiled. 6 months later, on a perfect October Saturday in Phoenix, our neighborhood looked different. The HOA signs were gone, replaced with hand-painted all our welcome signs that the kids had made. The pristine lawns now had trampolines, swing sets, and one house even had a chicken coop. We were hosting our third monthly Sensory Saturday block party. The first hour was quiet time. No music, just activities like sidewalk chalk bubble stations, and Bowie's very popular Pet the Therapy Dog Corner. Ethan was manning the bubble station, carefully showing younger kids how to make rainbow circles as he called them. Jennifer had become one of my closest friends. Her guilt transformed into fierce advocacy. She now ran a support group for special needs families in the area. Ashley and Emma visited monthly, and somehow, impossibly, Emma had become Ethan's first real friend. They communicated in their own special way, part words, part gestures, part pure understanding. The former HOA president's house had been sold to a lovely family with twins, one of whom was deaf. They'd installed visual fire alarms and doorbell lights, and nobody complained. Nobody dared. Maria, the social worker, had become an unexpected ally, helping us create a community resource program for families dealing with false reports. She'd even gotten Bowie certified as an official therapy dog so he could visit other kids going through trauma. As I watched Ethan lead a group of children in his version of quiet hour activities, teaching them to find calm in chaos, I thought about Karen. She was in minimum security prison, probably planning her appeal. Michael had sent a letter saying she blamed me for everything, showed no remorse, and was already trying to organize the inmates into some sort of hierarchical system. Old habits apparently died hard, but she'd lost completely, and we'd won more than a court case. The neighborhood that had once been hostile was now protective of Ethan. The mailman knew to approach slowly and announce himself. The neighbors knew that lawnmowers on Saturday mornings were a no-go. And everyone knew that if you messed with one family, you messed with all of us. As the sun set over our imperfect, chaotic, beautiful street party, Ethan ran up to me, Bowie faithfully at his heels. "Mama happy?" I pulled him close. This beautiful boy who'd been through so much. "Yes, baby, Mama's happy. Bad lady really gone. Bad lady really gone." He considered this, then delivered his truth in a quote from his new favorite movie. "Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of our lives." Indeed it was. Standing there, surrounded by a community that had learned to choose kindness over conformity, watching my son be celebrated instead of hidden, I realized something. Karen had tried to destroy us with her worst weapon, the system meant to protect children. But she'd failed to understand the most fundamental truth about parents like me. We don't break, we don't run, we don't hide our children to make others comfortable. We fight, we document, we protect. And when someone comes for our babies, we become something beyond dangerous. We become unstoppable. The last thing I'll share, and you can believe this or not, but it's true. Last week, I got a letter from prison, from Karen. 2 words, "I'm sorry." I framed it, not out of forgiveness, but as a reminder. A reminder that evil can dress in pastel blazers and live 3 houses down. A reminder that systems meant to protect can be weaponized. But most importantly, a reminder that when we stand together, when we refuse to be silent, when we protect the vulnerable among us, we win. Ethan still has hard days. Autism doesn't disappear because we won a court case. But he's no longer afraid of the doorbell. He knows he's safe, he knows he's loved, and he knows that his mama will burn down the whole world before she lets anyone hurt him again. If you made it this far, drop a heart in the comments for all the mama and papa bears out there fighting for their babies. And if you're dealing with your own HOA nightmare or harassment situation, know this: document everything, trust your instincts, Get lawyers involved early. And never ever let them make you feel like your child doesn't belong. Because every child belongs. Every family deserves peace. And sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning. It's teaching an entire community to be better. Bowie's sleeping at my feet. As I write this, gray creeping into his golden face now. Ethan's building a Lego city in his room, humming the song from his favorite movie. Our street is quiet, peaceful, safe. We won. We're home. We're free. And Karen Whitmore is eating prison food, thinking about the war she started with the wrong mother. Justice, it turns out, can be absolutely beautiful.